So, it has been 6 months since we moved to the UK, and we were finally able to buy a car after a lot of hassles, believe me. And I have this very firm belief in life. If I've been through all of these hassles, there's absolutely no reason why somebody else should go through the same horrible process, right? And that's exactly why in today's video, I'm going to tell you how you can buy a car in the UK even if you do not have a credit history. If you're an expat like us and you've just moved into the UK, this video is perfect for you because we're going to be telling you what mistakes to avoid, which brands you should be looking at, and what you need to do to buy that car. So here's the deal. Most of the dealers in the UK will not allow you to buy a car with financing unless you have a credit history from the past 3 years in the UK. But if you're moving to the UK, or if you plan on moving to the UK for the first time, you're not going to have any credit history, so that becomes quite a bit of a challenge. So that leaves you with either not having to buy a car at all or having to pay for the entire amount without any financing. Or is there a third option? Yes, there is a third option. We managed to buy a car in the UK with financing without any credit history with just the right information. So if you watch till the end, you're going to know everything you need to know on how you can get your car as well. Now, for starters, you might even be wondering if you need a car in the UK. Let me put it this way. If you live in London, the likelihood that you need a car is a lot lower because, to be honest, London is extremely well connected and you won't face any issues unless you're going outside London, unless you're going on a holiday or you want to take a trip somewhere. In those cases, you have the option of either renting out a car or using public transport. But to be honest, if you live outside London, not everything is as well connected. You usually have trains that go from London to the town centre or the village centre or another city centre. But beyond that, if you're trying to move around in villages and in towns, it can get a little tedious if you have to rely on public transport because there are fewer options and they aren't very frequent. So that means you have to wait for quite a bit. So you'll either have to rely on public transport and wait for a really long time, or walk, or use a cab service, which can get really expensive. So if you stay outside London, I very strongly recommend you buy a car. So the age-old question, should you buy a used car or a new car? Well, if you're coming from India like we did, your first inclination will be to look at new cars because that's typically what you do in India, right? That's also because the used car market in India is so small. But if you compare it to that of the UK, the used car market in the UK is absolutely massive, and there is a reason for it. The reason is financing. In the UK, there are two primary types of financing available. One is PCP and the other one is HP. PCP is personal contract purchasing and HP is hire purchasing. Hire purchase is essentially what we have in India. You decide the duration of the loan that you want to take, and then you split the cost of the car plus the financing over the duration, and at the end of that duration, the car is yours. PCP is a little different. In the case of PCP, in case you're leasing out the car for 2 years or 3 years, you pay for the value of the car for those 3 years only and not for its entire lifetime, plus financing, of course. At the end of that duration, it is up to you whether you want to retain the car or give it back. If you want to buy the car for yourself, all you have to do is pay the balance amount. And if you want to give the car back, you can just do that without any obligations. So after a lot of deliberations, we decided to go with the option of buying a used car instead of a brand new car. And I think the primary reason for this was because both of us were new drivers in the UK, and I think we were both a little worried that we would bang up a new car. So just jitters, I guess. But the other reason is also because the used car market is extremely professional in the UK. It's massive, like I just told you. You get your car without any delay. If you go through a dealership, they perform all the checks to make sure your car is in perfect condition. And you have a lot of variety to choose from. And you have financing options. I mean, what's not to love, right? The only concern we had with a used car was whether we would get conned, whether the car would break down in the middle of the road. But all of these concerns were dispelled because we went with a renowned dealership. So if you want to buy a car in the UK, where should you start your search from? Well, the top of the list is Auto Trader, shortly followed by Gumtree, and there's also private individuals. Auto Trader is like the Amazon of cars. They have every single car listed out in, well, the whole of UK, I guess. And it allows you to filter by car manufacturer, by model, by years, It lets you select whether the car has been in any accidents. It lets you select your mileage. You take your pick. We actually started looking at Auto Trader right from India before we moved over here, so we had an idea of what cars typically cost and what we should be looking for. Now, Auto Trader also lists out cars that are listed by private individuals. And to be very honest, the offers made by them can be extremely tempting because the offers by private individuals are usually a lot cheaper than those by dealerships, sometimes by even a couple of thousands. So it can be pretty tempting, and you might consider going for a private dealer versus a dealership, right? Something you need to bear in mind is it is not mandatory for them to tell you whether the car has been in an accident or not. It is mandatory for them to tell you if you ask, but they don't really need to put it in the listing information if it's been a relatively smaller accident but has still damaged the structural integrity of the car. In cases where the car was extremely badly damaged, Auto Trader doesn't let you list them, but in case of categories S, C, D, and N, Auto Trader still lets you list those cars. So if you are looking for a used car and if you're going via Auto Trader, do remember to use the filter if you do not want to look at any of those cars. So like I was telling you, we started looking at Auto Trader right from India, and we had narrowed down a couple of options by the time we got here. And I started putting in calls to all of the dealerships one by one, checking on financing. And that's when I realized that most of those dealers did not offer finance to people who had just moved to the UK simply because we did not have any credit history. So this was slightly devastating, and at that point the only alternates were to either pay for the entire value of the car without any financing or not buy a car at all. And because we were looking at starting SUVs, because we have 2 dogs and a car and a son, paying for the entire value of the car in one shot was not really feasible and not really a wise decision. We had almost given up until one of my friends told me that certain dealerships of certain brands in specific offer financing to expats like us. Now, before I move ahead, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time to do so. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon for notifications. What are those brands? So the brands I'm 100% confident of are BMW, Skoda, Seat, Volkswagen. Yes, these. Because I actually placed calls to all of these dealerships and they assured me that they would provide us with finance. In our case, we went through the BMW used car website, and the dealership near us was Sightner. And we actually liked the car, but the car was in Sheffield, which was pretty far from where we live. So we spoke to them, and what they told us was we could place an offer on the car, book the car for a small value. They would then drive the car down from Sheffield and we could then inspect it. And if there was any issue, of course, we could refuse to move ahead with the process and the entire value would then be refunded to us. But when the car came, everything was perfect. They told us what all checks had been done for the car. The car was completely cleaned, completely well maintained. It was in great shape. We also ran through a lot of the financing options. The team was extremely responsive, very, very nice to deal with. And in a matter of 2 or 3 days, the entire thing was closed and we had our car even delivered to us because we weren't really able to pick it up. So because we went with a dealership like BMW, we were 100% confident that there wouldn't be anything wrong with the car because there's the brand value associated with it. And we were very confident that they would actually do all the checks that they mentioned. And there was an entire policy on if something went wrong with the car, whom we should approach and what we should do. Everything was really forthcoming. So I think most of our concerns were taken care of because we went with an established dealership. So what should you look for while buying a car in the UK? So if you're buying a car from a private individual, you need to check the car extremely thoroughly. So start off with the body, check for dents, check the bumper for scratches, check whether the mirrors are cracked or not, check the wheels, check the tires and see if they've been extremely worn out or not. Please check the interiors of the car, check all the electronics inside the car, check if the windows move up or down, check if the seats recline well or not, check the music systems, check the navigation, check the speedometer, check the gearbox and the clutch and see if it's grinding against each other, if it's really smooth. And apart from that, what you also need to do is check the boot, check the engine. It's extremely important. Check the engine, check the oil, and if you can, take the car for a test drive. Now, unlike in India, insurance is against people and not against your car. So in the UK, if you do not have insurance, third-party coverage, you cannot drive or test drive the car. So that's something you need to bear in mind. You can either opt to get your insurance before you go and get your car, or you can ask the seller if he has temporary insurance to help you so that you can take a test drive of the car. If you're buying from a private seller, do remember you need to check the V5C, the service history, and the MOT. The V5C is the vehicle registration, which basically says that the person who's selling you the car has the right to sell you the car in the first place. Your MOT is required if your car is older than 3 years old. It's basically road inspection to check whether the car is, well, roadworthy, and if it meets the safety guidelines, if there are any exhaust emissions, all of those checks, and your service history, obviously. In the V5C, please remember to check if the chassis number mentioned on the V5C is the same as the chassis number mentioned on your actual car. In the MOT, you need to check whether the mileage mentioned in the MOT is the same as the mileage that your display panel on the car shows you. And in the UK, mileage is not what we typically say in India. In India, when we talk about mileage, to my knowledge, of course, we typically talk about how many kilometers the car gives you per liter of fuel, right? Like kitna deti hai. But in the UK, when you're talking about mileage, you're basically talking about how many kilometers the car has run. Got it? If you're buying from a dealership, of course, you don't have to worry too much about all of these things. Insist on checking the car for yourself, but you will not have to go into extreme granular details because there's some amount of trust that you have with the dealership. Now, a couple of things you absolutely need to keep in mind if you are going to buy a car in the UK. If you have a child who is under 12 years old or under 135 centimeters in height, the child needs to have a child seat so that he can be strapped in with a seat belt into your car, or else you could get fined. Another thing for you to keep in mind, you can only transport as many people in the car as there are seat belts. So if there are 5 seat belts in your car, that means 5 people can sit in your car, not 6, not 7, because you will be fined, simply because everyone inside the car needs to wear a seat belt while you're driving. So what do you actually need if you want to buy a car in the UK? Well, for starters, you need to have a driving license. If you don't have a UK driving license, you can use your India driving license as well. You also need to show proof that you are working legally in the UK. So you need to show your contract or your employment letter with your employer in the UK. You also need to show your house proof if you're taking financing, and your rental agreement in this case doesn't work. You will need to give either utility bills or local council tax receipts from the past 3 months. Apart from this, you'll also have to share details of your BRP, your visa, and if you're taking financing, again, you'll have to share your bank account details. Now, speaking of council tax, there's a bunch of things you need to do as soon as you move to the UK, and these are usually things a lot of people tend to forget. So, if you're moving to the UK, don't forget to watch this video.